First up, RFK tells us what dogs are the most delicious and why babysitters aren't just for your kids. Next, the bathroom smells that signal to Delta pilots that they served spoiled food.
What the hell? What does that smell? Smells like broccoli water from an Asian wet market. Check the flushometer. What? 15 flushes in 3 minutes? Stewardess, what the hell is going on back there? What? The food is spoiled? We gotta turn this baby around. I'm not losing another plane to diarrhea. Quickly, cotton ball those people's assholes.
Next, Biden vows to stay in the, wait, what was I saying? And lastly, are the tractor trailers driving into people's homes being driven by ISIS? And what you can do to keep your kids safe.
Are your kids laying awake at night worried about getting hit by a tractor trailer? That's why we've invented Stronger Door. It's like a regular door, but stronger. It's actually 3 doors compressed into one door. Stronger Door. Don't let this happen to you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today. I am coming to you from Max's house, the OG porch tour, and we might be working out arrangements to be back here and do another porch tour from Max's. But in the meantime, you know, we're the level up on porch tours. We don't even do the shows. We just come to these people's houses now. That's and Max, he's treating us like a king. We're having nice meals out on the lawn. We're drinking nice whiskeys. I'm hanging out at his bar. We've been having a good couple days. Guys, Porch Tour has been epic. And this weekend, we've got quite the string of shows coming at you. Richmond, Virginia Beach, Raleigh, North Carolina, followed by a live podcast with Guy Swan. And then we hanging out for a couple days on the road and going down to Texas for a whole nother string of shows. Guys, if you're a fan of this podcast, show up for Porch Tour, www.porchtour.com. Now I'm sitting down at the moment, and you guys know me. I like to pace around. I like to show off my agility, my youth, and I'm also anxious and I have ADD, and it helps me do the show to be able to stand up and pace around. And for all the shit that we've been giving Joe Biden about his inability to walk around, I had it coming, and I took a nice fall, and I'm old limpy right now. Joe Biden looks like a youthful man compared to the way I'm walking. And, sometimes you just forget how much of a dumbass you are, because I'm like a reasonably smart person if it comes to reading something, letting you know what I read, giving you an interesting thought on it, maybe slinging a joke here or there. But then you have those moments in your life where you realize maybe I should be taking the ADD medication because I really am a world-class space cadet. So I was hanging with my buddy, and it's true. You can make an argument that it's not my fault. It's what happens when you hang out with stupid people who own monster trucks. But my friend had a monster truck. And the first day that we did porch tour by my buddy, we were riding around his monster truck, and I was like, this is dangerous. I could see myself easily forgetting that I'm in a monster truck, stepping out of this thing, thinking that I was close to the ground, and snapping my ankle. And it was almost prophetic, because the next day he had a mattress in the back of his truck. And I was like, you can't just bring a dirty mattress into your house from some random lady. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, you're going to have bed bugs on it. And so I got my frantic Jew energy. He's got his, I've been smoking weed, I don't care about anything energy. I step up on the tire. I'm looking at the mattress. And then I go to step down and I forget that I'm off the ground. I literally just forgot. And guys, the popping noise that I've heard, it's in my nightmares now. It was like opening up a Snapple bottle. I stepped back, and it wasn't even like that high off the ground, but it was enough off the ground that you think you're just making a simple step. You pull a Joe Biden. You think you had the right staircase. You were ready to go, and now step down, fell right on my back. Turned to my friend. I was like, I think I broke my leg, and then I stood up and I was walking around and I was fine. And if there's anything I learned about injuries, because I do try and bring you guys helpful information. It's don't go to sleep, because nothing hurts till you wake up the next morning. It's a little bit like concussion. I don't know what happens in your sleep that all the pain decides to settle in, the swelling settles in, and then all of a sudden you become limpy. But my new feeling is if you get an injury, and this is not medical advice because we're back on YouTube and they like to take down our channel, which, by the way, everyone who's listening right now, really quickly, I'm just going to let you guys know that you missed an episode and you should probably go check it out on Spotify because it was a particularly good episode. But sometimes, you ask questions in the YouTube algorithm. It doesn't even like you asking those questions. Now I'm talking like a cattle auction person. You guys can let Ben Shapiro know I can talk way faster than Ben Shapiro. If he wants to have a competition to see who can talk faster, I can talk way faster than Ben Shapiro. You think I need breaths of air? I've been working out. I haven't become fat yet just because I had this injury. I can talk so fast. It's because I run. It's because I swim. It's because I squat. I do all sorts of exercises, so I can talk really fast. And this, if I practice it, I can talk even faster than this. How many of you guys want to put in a bid on the show right now? Are you feeling that auction energy? Anyways, I took a step back. It felt a nice little boop, like he opened up a Snapple. It wasn't a pop sound like that. That was like a pop in a balloon sound. It was like, but anyways, I'm limping around a little bit. We're going to be ready. It's not going to be a problem. We're not canceling Porch Store. By the time Friday comes around, Max will have fed me enough barbecue and I will have drinking enough beers that we'll be good to go. Not a problem. All right, listen, we have absolutely no reason to talk about the debates. You guys all watch the debates, but I would like to delve into some of the coverage since the Joe Biden debates. And if I can recommend a career for Joe Biden, now that his political career is over, maybe he should start selling cough medicine. I mean, whatever the hell he was on that had him that drugged up. I mean, even for a guy with dementia, he was like extra druggy that night. Maybe you should just get out there, old Uncle Joe's cough medicine. Not just for when you're showering with your daughter. Like if I'm making product recommendations, Hawk 2 should also be making a lube. I'm just saying there should be if you walk into CVS, there should be the Hawk 2 on that rack with her face on it like Newman's Own. There's a good product placement. And in my opinion, because people are freaking out about Joe Biden, they're saying after that debate that he's got to pull out of the race. And let me tell you, if there's one thing I've learned from relatives with dementia, it's you don't take them out of the game until you see their balls. Once you see your relatives' balls, that's when you know it's over. Until then, they still got some fight in them. But when the day comes that your grandfather or Uncle Phil share and stone you, and you have to look at their old saggy nuts and turn around to your father and go, "It happened. I saw Grandpa's nuts." That's how you know. We call it being Uncle Phil'd in our family. Once you get Uncle Phil'd by one of your relatives, that's when you know you got to take them out of the game. And so I'm just going to say it for all the Democrats panicking, trying to figure out what they got to do with Joe Biden until his balls are out on national television or it's just captured and then he falls over. Because listen, falling is a young man's game. I'm only 36 years old. I'm deadlifting. I'm squatting. I'm running. That's why I can talk as fast as I can. And, I fall and end up having to limp while I'm on the road, having, problems from travel. So that's not the sign of an old man. Bathroom problems, not a sign of an old man. Having your balls out, that's when you know it's over. Now, there's a lot of chatter. Who's going to replace Joe Biden, right? That's what everyone's getting into. Who's going to replace Joe Biden? And it seems like they might be stuck with Kamala Harris, but we all know. I'm going to show you some recent footage of Kamala Harris, who's out there working the streets. Come on, girl. I'm out here on this corner. I'm talking to the people. You're going to see it. You're going to see why Kamala Harris is the most unelectable person in human history. Joe Biden's corpse would RYM before Kamala Harris, which, by the way, that's going to be the new campaign thing is, listen, Trump is so evil. We just go for Joe Biden's corpse. Donald Trump is so evil and so horrible. Even if Donald Trump's not alive, if Joe Biden's not alive, Donald Trump can't be back in office. So vote for Joe Biden corpse. Just wait for that campaign to come around. Anyways, they're talking about unwillingness to pass over Kamala Harris. And are you telling me she can't laugh that off? You're telling me that she can't go gracefully, that she can't laugh off, that she wasn't able. She knows. Come on, lady. You know you're not qualified and nobody likes you. And then for all this Michelle Obama talk, it's very easy when you're on the sidelines to get excited for people, right? It's very easy when people are on the sidelines to think that they're a good idea until they actually throw her into the race. By the way, on the topic of Kamala Harris coming in and filling in for, here, we can change the views here. How's my microphone, by the way? Because we're on the road, I'm using slightly different equipment. You know what? Don't tell me. We're stuck with it anyways. So just tell me that it sounds fine. I don't want to hear other information. Kamala Harris, they're saying she's got $140 million. I've seen two figures. I saw $90 million and I also saw $240 million. And that one of the reasons why it would make sense to keep with Kamala Harris is because if she gets it, by the way, these lights are going dim on you. And if you feel like you're fainting, you're not. That happened to me. That happened to me. Now it's like ghost stories. I'm gonna have to get up in a second and just move my hand in front of the thing. But yesterday I was all sleepy and I was sitting in here and my knee hurt, and then that little fade out happened, and I was wondering if I was blacking out and about to faint. All right, everyone, listen. Just talk about your amongst yourselves for a quick minute. You know what? I bet a lot of people in the chat were sheathunderwear.com. They're a loyal sponsor of the Run Your Mouth podcast. They make Summer Porch Store happen. Believe me, you can't be out here with injured knees running around on people's porches without sheathunderwear.com, the only underwear that separates your balls from your dick. Keep everything cool, calm, and collected, even amongst the falls of Summer Porch Store. So, guys, if you want to make sure that while you're falling down and cracking your knee, but totally fine and able to show up for the rest of the porch store, that your balls don't end up getting tangled or meshed up with your dick or stuck to your leg or falling out of your pants, that's how Joe Biden can keep himself in the race longer. You know, I was talking about this new standard of whether or not your balls are out. Well, that's how Joe Biden makes sure that he stays in the race. He puts them into a sheath pouch, and then you're good. All right, guys, give me 1 second. All of you in the chat, talk about. Now my mic's back. I hope. Give me a second. I'm back in 1 second, everybody. Old Limpy over here ain't moving too quick. We got it done. All right, continuing our incredibly professional program. What do we got next? Let's we can get into some actual show. Before we do, we plugged sheathunderwear.com, promo code RYM, 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. And of course, porchstore.com. And other than that, let's get into the show. Let's see what I've got lined up for everybody. All right, so first is I think I've got footage of Joe Biden after the debate went horribly wrong. You would think he would be doing and prove to everybody just how competent he is, right? He had a bad night. He took a little bit too much cough medicine. He spent too much time traveling the globe. We'll look at his excuses in a minute, but don't worry. I'm actually totally, completely, and 100% fine. And so here's Joe Biden. Mike, keep going out. Mike, don't go out. Just work. Work with me. All right. Anyways, here's the first Joe Biden, or I think first instance of Joe Biden addressing the American public, trying to remind us that he is in fact competent and just had a bad evening at the debate. Let's see what he has to say. Oh, you know what? Bad clip. Thank you, and may God protect our troops. I'm going to break something if this mic goes out again. You know what? Actually, if the mic goes out again, I think what I'll do is maybe we'll just go with the audio from the computer for this episode, which is not ideal, but you know, we'll do what we got to do. It's episodes from the road. Work with me. But listen to the episode because I got really interesting Supreme Court stuff in the second half. All right. This was Joe Biden addressing why his debate performance was as bad as it was. Remember, the entire country is concerned with his age. And so he wants to let people know that, no, he's got a reasonable excuse. And if I were to come forward with a reasonable excuse, you would try and make it a medical problem that affected you that night and that night only. You would go, oh, wow, we actually never saw this from him. There's a brain tumor and it's going to be fixed in time. Or that gives you an easier out. I don't know. But this was Joe Biden trying to come up and address why his debate performance was so bad. And here it goes. I didn't have my best night, but the fact is that, you know, I wasn't very smart. That doesn't sound like a great sell, Joe Biden. You're telling us that you weren't good on TV because you're not very smart, but you still want to be president. Doesn't sound like a great sell. Let's continue. Biden said, speaking at the campaign fundraiser without the aid of a teleprompter, that's impressive stuff right there. You know, like that's like little kids when I can't think of the example. I decided to travel around the world a couple times, going through around 100 time zones before the debate. I can tell you I'm a young man. Travel will get to you. You'll fall off the back of a truck. I can tell you travel ain't easy. Didn't listen to my staff and came back and nearly fell asleep on stage. He said, that's no excuse, but it's an explanation. I think there were more like there were moments when you were awake. I think that might be the more accurate description. Biden traveled to France and Italy during 2 separate trips in the space of 2 weeks last month, flying overnight from the Group of Seven summit in Bari, Italy, to appear at a fundraiser with former President Barack Obama in Los Angeles on June 15th before returning to Washington the following day. He then spent 6 days at Camp David preparing for the June 27th debate. Wait a second. Are you telling me that your excuse for your debate performance is that you're actually a young man, but 6 full days after travel is not enough recovery time? I mean, this is quite the way to address it. Listen, I'm a stupid person, and so as a stupid person, I didn't listen to my staff, but I made the mistake of doing too much travel. 6 days of travel that I had afterwards was not enough to recover. The 6 days of non-travel, that sounds like some old man shit. If you're telling me that 6 full days between travel wasn't enough to get your shit together, that sounds to me like you're too old for the job. All right, this is from NPR. I used this microphone yesterday without any problems. All right, guys. If it goes mute on me once more, we're switching to the desktop, which it's not quite microphone quality, but believe me, I've done plenty of episodes with it. It's not the end of the world. All right. No, go back. Go back. Slide number 4. This is from NPR. The uncomfortable occurrences were not predictable, but seemed more likely when he was a large crowd or tired after a particularly bruising schedule. I'm sorry. This is from the New York Times explaining when Biden comes off as poor. Remember, just 2 weeks ago, if you were seeing bad incidents, that was conservative media lying to you. Now it's, yeah, there's sometimes when Biden seems to be a little bit. All right, can you guys hear me at the moment? Let me know if you can hear me. I think it's not going to be the most crispy of sounds, but whatever. This is episodes on the road. I put a lot of time into putting this one together, and I have good stuff for everybody. So bear with the less than ideal audio quality. All right, so here they are. They're trying to basically pitch to us that Joe Biden's fine and he's actually doing great. And the bad moments that he has are basically just the moments when he's in front of the camera. You know, it's all the moments when he's in private, he's wonderful. The bad moments are just when he's actually doing the job. When he's actually doing the job and he's got the stress of the job, there seems to be problems with the guy. But if you leave him alone and he doesn't have to work and he gets to chill on the couch and doesn't have to actually do anything, he's totally fine. It's just when he actually has to be out and about and working that he seems to have a problem. All right, Inner Circle presses Biden to stay in the race. And apparently, if you guys wanted to know who Joe Biden is leaning on, remember, Joe Biden had a catastrophic debate. The entire world finally seen what we all knew forever, that this guy secretly has dementia, and hold the people accountable who have been hiding this from us this entire time, including the people in the media, the staff. I want to hear about him trying to put his shoes in the microwave. I want to hear about the family members that have seen his balls. I'm sure that's happened in private. We all know that the guy's had dementia this entire time, and we've had relatives, we'd have friends, we got nice people in coffee shops all pretending like he's the best option, that he still has it. If you think he's got dementia, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. And then they all finally had to see it with their own eyes. And so what's the information coming out? Well, he just has the dementia when he has to work, and it's just when he only has 6 days to relax after flights. But don't worry, Hunter Biden's advising him. The inner circle of Joe Biden apparently includes Hunter Biden. If you guys want to know who Joe Biden's getting his advice from, hey, remember, we were actually got that whole Burisma story wrong. Remember when we were saying that Hunter Biden had no business working for Burisma? Apparently, he's actually the world expert. He's running America right now. We had that story totally wrong. He was actually so qualified for the Burisma job that he's like overqualified for the president job now. And this is the way that they're trying to resell us on Joe Biden. Hey, listen, he might have had that terrible debate performance, but don't worry, he's got the crack addict Hunter Biden working for him. And now behind the scenes, I think we're going to see more and more stories of just how much dementia Joe Biden really has. They're going to try and pressure him to get out of the race so that they can hand the reins to someone else. As to whether or not he actually quits out, we're going to see, but I think the stories will get increasingly more interesting in order to pressure him. This was from the New York Post. Biden had 15 to 20 episodes of cognitive decline last year, Carl Bernstein says. All right, let's read. The former Post reporter said there was apparently a fundraiser where Biden spoke at the podium before becoming very stiff, almost like rigor mortis. I don't know what that is. This was a year ago, almost exactly at the Four Seasons restaurant on Park Avenue, and he became very stiff, and a chair had to be brought for him to do the latter part of the event, Bernstein told Cooper. I think that's what these folks are saying and have been saying for a while. Yes, he's great when we see him, and we, as we have tonight, but he also has these inexplicable moments that they're very concerned about. And you, Ron Klein, and the First Family, we need to talk about this. Yeah, it's called The Guy Has Dementia. And so now, what are they trying to do? Hey, Kamala Harris. What? You guys, we listen to the show. We know that Kamala Harris is the most unelectable, most unlikable person that's probably ever stepped their foot into politics ever. And now the mess that the Democrats have made for themselves, where they pitched us on returning to normalcy and then put up the guy with dementia who clearly had dementia, let him, promise you all these free goods and services like your college tuition paid for while he flooded people over the border, got us into 2 wars he continued to fund, and, continued our fiscal policies that led to inflation. But hey, we're returning to normal here. We're pretending like the guy doesn't have dementia. That's back to normal. And by the way, we've been into this concept called diversity for a while. And since we're so into platforming minorities of color or whatever, we got stuck with this lady, Kamala Harris, who's got to be the least qualified. I mean, talk about a person that just makes the entire position of, hey, I think we're overlooking individual. Like, she makes the entire concept look bad. And now they got to stick with it. They can't turn around and go, well, it's just based off the merit. And it seems to us like you're unlikable and you're not competent. They can't do that. And for anyone who thinks that they might be able to sell Kamala Harris, here's her on BET. I believe this was on BET, just trying to be hip and cool and let the kids know that she's out here on the streets. Let's give it a listen. Kamala Harris should be out here on these streets. Did we hear the out here on the streets line? I feel like this played a little bit late. Let's listen to that again. Everyone's got to hear about a Kamala Harris. She's out there. She's working the streets. She's just a street girl, everybody, from her own mouth. I'm out here in the streets, girl. I'm out here in my high heels. I'm out here working the corner. I know what's going on in these streets. I just ripped off Doug Stanhope's character from the Keynesian economics as applied to the urban hooker market. If you've never heard it, go heard it. Oh, no, you guys aren't. You guys don't have the audio from this. I can fix that. Hold on. I've got that fixed. I've got it fixed. I fixed it. Here, I'm going to play it again. Now you guys can hear it. Listen to Kamala Harris, turn on the black voice to let us know how she's out here on the streets. Will never not be funny. All right, next up, they're trying to do everything they can to go, listen, Joe Biden might be a corpse, but you still got to vote for him because we can't let Donald Trump win this race. And this might be one of the most classless segments I've ever seen from Rachel Maddow, but she dug back up Stormy Daniels to re-give her testimony, to role play and give the testimony that she gave in court. Now, it was reported that Stormy Daniels started to play up the fact that it wasn't actual consensual sex, which should have been perjury because in previous instances, she said blatantly that it definitely was, like, she wouldn't go so far as to say it was non-consensual. And then she gave new testimony in front of the jury implying that the engagement with Donald Trump was not consensual. And none of us got to see this at home because there were no television cameras. And so Rachel Maddow decided, you know what, Stormy, there's so much bad press going on for Joe Biden right now as he clearly has dementia. Why not bring you on TV and I'll play my part and you can re-give your testimony so that all of us can hear it. So we're not going to listen to that much of this, but we can listen to a little bit of this entirely. Listen, if something entirely classless is going to happen on the news, you can bet Run Your Mouth's going to cover it. Brought to you by YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. On board for classless news. It's the Run Your Mouth classless news segment. Let's go.
The part of Susan Hoffinger, the prosecutor who questioned Ms. Daniels on direct examination. Here we go. This is on your direct examination.
Okay.
Because at the end of this is when they ask for the mistrial.
Okay.
So I'll be the prosecutor and you be you.
You're good, Susan.
Thank you very much. What happened when you left the bathroom?
When I came out of the bathroom, I expected to exit, go around the bed and back out to where we had been sitting and talking and hopefully say, okay, time to go. I've been here long enough. That was actually when I realized how long I had been there. And when I opened the bathroom door to come out, Mr. Trump had come into the bedroom and was on the bed, basically between myself and the exit.
What was he wearing at the time?
His boxer shorts and a t-shirt.
What was your reaction to seeing him like that?
At first, I was just startled, like a jump scare. I wasn't expecting someone to be there, especially mine has a lot of clothing. And that's when I had moments where I felt, that's when I had that moment where I felt the room spin in slow motion. I felt the blood basically leave my hands and feet, and almost like if you stand up too fast and everything kind of.
I mean, talking like she's Mother Teresa, like she's a nun, never been with a person her entire life, was married once, and then was celibate, found the Lord, and then ran into Donald Trump. I mean, pretty, and already gave a different talk of this on multiple shows. You can definitely go watch Bill Maher talking about it. But here she is, playing, hey, I'm one of those good girl porn stars. I mean, sure, I got paid to have sex with all sorts of men on camera. And, I probably have done some stripping and other things that was, all paid for play. But when it came to this instance, and I went to this millionaire's hotel room, oh my God. And I was living a different life at the time. I had found the Lord, and my God, my head was spinning because I had no idea how to handle a situation like this. Let's continue.
I've spent. That happened too. Then I just thought, oh God, what did I misread to get here? Because the intention was pretty clear. Somebody stripped down to their underwear and posing on the bed, like waiting for you.
I'm just going to stop for a second. When you say the blood left your hands and feet, like you stand up too fast, everything spinned, you mean that you were shocked?
Yes.
You were just surprised that he had come into the bedroom and had taken off his clothes?
Yeah, honestly, even if he had his clothes on, I still would have been surprised, startled.
Yeah.
Then when I realized that, he was minus a lot of clothing, then I was just like, oh no, what's happening?
So the prosecutor continues. What happened when you came out of the bathroom? Did he stay on the?
I think it's enough of that. I didn't even watch the whole segment, but it's pretty incredible. And this will be the most classless election of all time. Forget any discussion about, hey, inflation, the border, or the wars, things that the American public might be interested in. It's dementia versus the scoundrel. Hey, this guy might have dementia, but at least he's not Donald Trump. And it's going to be left up to voters to hear all of the dirty deets about Hunter Biden, who's apparently working with Joe Biden, apparently one of his chief advisors. And that's what the American public's going to be forced to pick between. Hey, do you want the guy who's in trouble for the Stormy Daniels thing and being a classless individual? Or would you rather listen, if you guys vote for the corpse, we're going to put good people around him. Sure, Kamala's number 2 in that cabinet, and she's really horrible that we can't even run her. But, everyone else there will be competent. There'll be some competent people. We'll find some competent people. I mean, we're not going to tell you who they are or put them in front of you or let you know, but don't worry. If you vote for the normalcy of the guy with dementia, you'll have your return to competency, and then we'll keep the guy who's going to get rid of democracy. Vote for the corpse. Listen, it's either corpse or the one who got some action from a porn star who now gets to go on the news and pretend like it wasn't consensual? All right. I always love the petty shit, though. At the end of the day, they did Donald Trump dirty, but some of the petty shit's hilarious. It's still funny when you got a billionaire and you get to just piss the guy off. And so in this case, Trump Golf Course's liquor license not renewed after conviction. It's just petty. Hey, you're a convicted felon. You can't have your liquor license at your restaurant anymore. It's just annoying to deal with. I'm sure he passes the asset over to another individual. He makes it bring your own beer. But I do like the petty stuff. It is amusing to me. All right. Now, as everyone dislikes Donald Trump, I don't know the accuracy of this video, but Trump was describing the way, or someone was describing the way that Donald Trump handled a meeting out in Afghanistan. And when you hear this, and who Donald Trump is behind the scenes, firstly, he's probably done some real dirty business in New York. I mean, some of the shit he must have pulled, the threats, the working with the mobs or otherwise. I mean, this sounds like some real mafioso shit what you're about to hear. But then also when he says, I'll handle it within 1 minute. You put me on a call. Everyone respects me. Iran, they wouldn't do anything. Putin, he respects me. China, he respects me. Maybe Donald Trump's actually not lying. Maybe Donald Trump knows how to threaten people in a way that they're actually scared shitless of him. And if we heard this at home, we would even be like, oh, I don't know that I'm comfortable with this amorality of threatening people like this. But maybe Trump's actually not lying to us when he says, I'll handle it, believe me. One phone call. You don't want to know the details of what I'm going to threaten these people with. You wouldn't feel comfortable, but I'm tough. Fair but tough, and everyone loves me. Believe me, after I threaten somebody's life, they call me afterwards and they go, thank you, Trump. That's what I needed. All right. That's enough introduction on this. Let's give it a
I'm gonna give you my favorite President Trump story. This is my number one favorite of all time. When we were negotiating with the Taliban, while President Trump was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a conditions-based withdrawal, meaning that you do what we tell you to do, and then we will start pulling troops back slowly as long as you abide by our rules. It's President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and they are talking to Taliban leadership in the room, and they had one translator in the room. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this, I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And translator translated. And he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you. And the translator goes, and Trump goes, tell him.
Yes.
Tell him what I said. Tell him what I said. Reached in his pocket, pulled out a satellite photo of the leader of the Taliban's home and handed it to him.
Shut up.
Got up and walked out the room.
love Trump, hate Trump. That's pretty fucking cool. I mean, tell me that's not out of a Martin Scorsese gangster movie right there. Tell me that's not some gangster shit. Hey, here's your house. You're going to let us pull our troops out, or you're going to have some consequences. And you know what? Maybe Donald Trump's not lying every time he goes, I'll fix it. One phone call. I'll get it done. All right, what do I got next? I think that's it on the presidential stuff. Maybe I got one more on this. Oh, yeah, you got RFK Jr. I played about this in the intro. Well, first it was the incident about him eating dog. And you can go back to one of my end of year things. And I was saying it was the first one I ever did. You can go check it out. I got this huge reaction talking about, imagine if for COVID, they told us that we had to kill our dogs. And everyone got really upset. And I was like, all right, well, that exact reaction, I'm not doing the joke justice, but I was like, that exact guttural reaction of like, wait a second, how bad is this thing? And why do I have to kill my dog? Is the way we all should have felt about closing our businesses. If Fauci had told you, listen, grandma's going to die, I need you to kill your dog, how many people would go, wait, I need a little more information here. I'm not saying I won't kill I need a little bit more information. And yet nobody really cared to question the facts of, hey, you got to close things when it was somebody else's business. And to me, you know, as a sociopath who just doesn't love dogs, I'm okay with dogs. I like big dogs. When I see people being all cutesy with dogs, I don't love dogs the way you guys like dogs. I see them as an animal. But, you know, RFK, posing. Looks like a picture of him with dog. I doubt he's eating a dog. Looks like he's being silly and funny. And I don't know what the carcass is, but everyone reacts. I would never eat dog. I couldn't eat dog. I wouldn't do it. But everyone reacts like you're being a cannibal. And I don't know. It's funny to me that dogs are so precious to me that becomes the thing that can ruin a political career. Amongst everything else, that shows off the savageness, which is why Fauci had to lie about that beagle story with the fleas, because that was the thing. If you show that to people, everything else, you tell them about the AIDS, whatever, this, that, all of a sudden you tell them mean things are happening to dogs and the entire country starts to care. That's the only way that you can get through to anybody. Anyways, they're starting to find the dirt on RFK, not even denying whatever happened with the babysitter. Just going, yep, I got a bad pass. This is the most classless election ever. Hey, I've got a bad pass, but at least I'm competent and I'm a traditional liberal. And I'll actually make the structural changes to government of them not controlling your health policies, getting rid of some of the regulation, getting it. Well, I guess he's just as into the wars as everyone else. But, at least he's got a bit of pitch there. But listen, I got a shitty past. I know then in the past that would have gotten you removed from an election, but listen, you're picking between dimension, even more classless. That's where we're at. Don't think anyone's ever going to have a discussion about the issues. All right, a couple quick wild news stories that I came across. We usually do this in the front section, but after the debate, I was like, I think we got to give everyone the latest on all the candidates. Sheet.com, use promo code RYM and get 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Kratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. Let's take a look at some recent fake news, which hopefully the YouTube overlords understand that this is a joke and they don't give another strike to the channel. On that note, we did get a strike on the channel last week for asking questions. I'm not even going to mention the topic we were asking questions about because they don't even want you exploring things. So guys, just know it seems like YouTube is back on keeping a watchful eye on content. So I recommend following the show on the other platforms. I consume most media on YouTube, so I understand why you guys consume the show here. It still is kind of the easiest, but structural changes coming soon, which also that we will be consolidating YouTube content to be a better member of the community. We just want to be a good member of the YouTube community. So be on the lookout for some changes coming your way. All right, let's take a look at some fake news stories. First is, what's a fart walk? How this trendy exercise can help digestion. Claiming, you eat a meal and you want to go to a walk to digest it, let all those farts out outside. You don't want to be at home with your loved one watching TV blasting farts. I'm calling fake news on this story. You want to know why? You don't want to walk and fart. You want to stop and fart. That's advice. I haven't shat my pants in a long time, and it's because I have a strict stop to fart policy. If you're moving around, you're not going to sense if there's a little bit more coming at your way. You can clench at the last second. You can realize something's about to breach your anal walls and realize, hey, that wasn't just a fart, but not while you're walking. If you're going to try and walk and push out and be all willy-nilly blasting your farts out in the wild, you better make sure you got sheathunderwear.com and that you're out alone, because I'm just letting you know this is a way. If you want to keep your shitting your pants numbers down on an annual basis, you want to be a person who can turn around and go, I didn't shit my pants once the entire last year. I think I'm going on like 4 years now because I'm an adult and I know to stop and fart. That's where I'm going to say it based on no research whatsoever. 95% of shitting your pants incidents happen to individuals who thought that they were farting while walking. They didn't stop. They didn't take a moment to respect their fart and not push too aggressively and ensure that it was just a fart. And if you think that you're going to eat large meals and get out there and just casually fart while you're out with your loved one, it's not going to work. And that's why I'm here with the honest media coverage. Hopefully YouTube doesn't give me a strike for this. Hopefully YouTube doesn't listen to me putting the New York Post on blast for this non-scientific information about being able to go on fart walks after a meal and that being a recipe for shitting your pants. I just want to speak truth when I see it. All right, next fake news story. Oh, this one might actually get me in trouble, but you know what? Let's
workers were forced out of their jobs just because they were gay. Tonight on PBS News Weekend, devastating Midwestern floods are putting a spotlight on the condition of America's aging dams. Then the sports world is taking on a new opponent, climate change.
Guess what? Children are not going to be able to play baseball outside. People are not going to be able to play tennis outside. Something's got to give.
That's where the news is at. We're not going to be outside because of global warming. Does anyone else feel like they lied to us about this whole, hey, there's going to be a heat dome? I was hearing for 2 weeks about this heat dome on the Northeast, and it kind of just felt like it was summer. Anyone else feel like they lied and cheated to us on the heat dome, where you're like, they're telling you, hey, people are going to die. Make sure that you got extra good air conditioners. Make sure that you're staying in your house. Don't be going outdoors. And you're like, isn't this just summer? I'm pretty sure this happens every July. It gets a little bit, oh, there's a heat dome over the Northeast. Never been this hot ever. Global warming's more urgent and more real than it's ever been. Keep your kids indoors for their own health and make sure they don't play sports because they got to get used to living indoors because no one's ever going to be able to play baseball again. I mean, how much can they lie to our faces about global warming? Especially after they pretended like Biden was normal and COVID was the whole thing that COVID was. But here they are. Hey, guys, the thing called summer that happens every year where it gets a little bit warmer, and then we told you it was going to get extra spicy this summer, and it didn't because of a heat dome that never happened. Remember, this thing's getting so extreme, your kids won't even be able to get outside. Make more investments into, I don't know, I guess, what are you saying the solution is? That we all get better air conditioning and burn more electricity? All right, I got to go limp over there and do the thing again. YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. I see you in the chat. Out here on the road, limping around, getting episodes done. All right, more random fake news stories, and then we'll get into the Supreme Court stuff. This was from the New York Times, and they did the math on how many cars came into the city and how much money the city could have made if they continue doing the congestion pricing. And how dumb is the New York Times? Can you guys take 3 minutes and just even read the back cover of Economics in One Lesson? Yeah, the point is you didn't do it because if you did, you'll be creating so much congestion in the areas that are right outside the congestion tolling. You're going to get people that don't want to come into New York City and spend money because you're throwing extra money and expenses at them that they just go, fuck it, I'm not going into the city. And you're actually going to lose money. And that's what they realized. Hey, we can't piss off people as all the prices are going up all the time. But here they are. They go, oh, yeah, but if we charge them, yeah, you get the more money from them until people stop showing up. You haven't actually done a full study on the impact of this. All right. I got one more. Trump ally Bannon reports to prison. Yeah, it's fun. They're throwing a going to prison party. And yeah, it basically is a political prisoner of Joe Biden. And then last one, Elon Musk SpaceX will build a $843 million tug vehicle to pull the International Space Station back down to Earth. And can we blow that shit up? Come on. When is the last time NASA did something cool? It's 4th of July. If we're not using the thing anymore, everyone else, Kim Jong-un, he's ill or whatever weasel fat face guy's name is always blowing shit up in the ocean. When was the last time we showcased one of our awesome bombs? We've got awesome bombs. Why don't we showcase one of our awesome bombs and blow that thing up and make an awesome fireworks show and let people know, hey, listen, we're not going to war in your countries anymore, but you want to try some shit over here. Look at this bomb that we got. What are we going to do once the space station comes back to Earth? Are you guys not nervous about aliens or other diseases on that thing? I mean, you guys are always talking about chicken flus and other viruses that exist, and now you're going to bring things back from space that have just been out there, and we already have garbage up in space, so you tell me you're bringing this thing down here to make a repair and send it back up? Or are you just bringing it down to retire it as garbage so that, I don't know, 5 years from now, you end up going to some state fair and you can look at the thing and be like, that thing doesn't even look like it was in space. It looks like you got a bunch of, and then you find out later, well, it's not the original version. They patched it up. They took out some of the supplies and the parts, but yeah, that thing was up in space. Come on, let's blow the thing up. Let's have some fun. All right. We had some big Supreme Court cases. I'm sure you guys have heard plenty about it, but you haven't heard my original analysis. The non-lawyer, the loudmouth who didn't actually read the whole stuff. But I promise you, I got information that no one else is telling you. So let's start with the social media case that I had mentioned. It was a couple weeks ago. I think Texas brought the court case. We know that the government threatened and intimidated and got social media companies to play ball with the COVID narrative, to play ball with the Hunter Biden laptop story. We know what was going on. And so finally it gets up to the Supreme Court to address to what extent the government can threaten social media companies to be compliant. Everything's dangerous in the eyes of government. Hey, if I've got a policy here that I need to be at war with Russia because Russia's going to take over the globe and we have people questioning this policy, well, that's dangerous because we need to make sure to stop Putin now. There's not one policy in the eyes of government that they can't spin as you questioning as being dangerous because, of course, to them, what they're doing is absolutely right. And so anybody questioning what's absolutely right is dangerous because it's going to get in the way of them doing what's absolutely right. Hey, listen, I got to give free money to the college kids at the expense of, the construction workers because these college kids, they deserve it and they're going to have worse futures. And so if you're questioning the free money that I'm giving to the college kids, you're making their lives more miserable and there's going to be mental health problems and that leads to death. So it's dangerous. It's like 7 degrees from Kevin Bacon. What are you, 3 thoughts away from declaring something to be dangerous? Hey, I think cars should be able to go, oh, cars cause deaths. You can't be driving a fast car. You can't be reviewing how nice the new whatever vehicle is from whatever company. That thing drives to, every single car with the gas engine can't be shut down by government. And they're dangerous too because they cause global warming. Listen, everything causes global warming and global warming is dangerous. So finally, it gets to the Supreme Court. They got the opportunity to put government back in check and tell them that they're not allowed to intimidate social media companies into doing their will, into, censorship of our opinions, of our questions. And this was from the Wall Street Journal. And let's give it a read, and then I'll tell you why the Supreme Court got that case so wrong. President Biden won against the Supreme Court Wednesday when a 6-3 majority tossed a lawsuit, Murthy versus Missouri. You see, don't listen to me. I made up the Texas part. Accusing his administration of colluding with social media platforms to censor controversial COVID views. Don't be surprised if government officials read the ruling as a license to do more stealth censoring. And we all know that it clearly happened. We heard, what's his name? The guy who runs Facebook on Joe Rogan talking about that they were basically getting threats from government. We know from the Alex Berenson case that there were emails, hey, why is this guy still on Twitter? I personally experienced the algorithms working against me and even did last week. So we all know that there was clearly a coordinated effort from government to pressure social media companies into making sure that even certain questions such as lab leaks were not available on the internet. All right, let's continue as to why the Supreme Court ruled against checking government and limiting their capacity of threatening social media companies in what to me is a direct threat on free speech. Let's continue. States and individuals sued numerous federal officials for violating their First Amendment speech rights by pressuring social media platforms to suppress their posts. While lower courts ruled for the plaintiffs, 6 justices held that they failed to show they had legal standing to sue. Plaintiffs must show that a particular defendant pressured a particular platform to censor a particular topic before the platform suppressed a particular plaintiff's speech on that topic, explains Justice Amy Coney Barrett. So in other words, there was no standing for the case because there was not one specific defendant in government. With that, though, how can you possibly stop government from pressuring social media companies? Listen, I'm a Jewish sales guy. Here's what you do. You get a room of 1,000 people, and every 25 people you declare to be a different agency. This is the Agency of Communications for Environmental Rights. This is the Agency for Communications for the Internet. This is the Federal Bureau's Communication Direct Link to the Youth of America. This is the Government Association for Concerns of Health in Minority Communities. Every 25 people, you create some new government agency that group of people is, and they hound the phone 24 hours a day, where each agency gets to call up, hey, YouTube, this is the Government Association for Childhood Safety. We're looking at some of the vaccine information that you have, and we're wondering why this information's on your platform. And then they read through their script, and they go through their whole shebang, and then they go, hey, listen, this is the Environmental Protection Agency, and we're dealing with a case here that seems like you are questioning vaccine data. And then the next agency gets to call up, and then guess what? I guess there's no standing because there were 25 different agencies, of which within the 25 different agencies, there were 25 different people. As long as government creates a good enough rotation of who's calling and intimidating, well, then I guess then how do you possibly check government? If government has thousands of or hundreds of different agencies and different people that work at all the agencies, I guess you never have any standing to bring a suit against the government ever. Well, which specific person? So in other words, you can admit to the fact that they were censoring free speech, but because there wasn't good. Of course, there wasn't any one single individual. They pulled their mafia shit where we all saw it with Fauci. He said at the end of that congressional hearing where he goes, they read from the book where he's like, yeah, as long as we create the laws, then all of the schools and everyone else will pressure people into do it. And then he turns around and goes, I never said that. I never pressured you. Because they all know how to do this shit where they can pressure you and then turn around. We never forced you. I mean, sure, we created a framework where your job was going to pressure you out of your job, but we never forced you. We all know the game that they're playing. And so, I don't know, we got to figure out ways to check government's ability to play this mafia game of intimidating you and then pretending like they weren't forcing you, where it takes 3 years until something gets in front of a judge and there's no penalty for government being wrong. And so in this case, we know that they pressured social media companies, and because there were too many different people that were making the phone calls, there was no standing to sue. Well, then great, you just legalized government's ability to censor free speech. As long as they have enough different people reaching out to the companies, it's enough different agencies, you just figured out a legal framework, so I guess for suppressing free speech. And if you didn't do that, well then how do you create standing? What would be the way that this lawsuit could be brought that we could limit what government clearly did, which was suppressed? All right. In other words, if the Supreme Court's going to admit free speech was suppressed, it's just you didn't bring this court case in the right way. Well, then what would be the right way? How do we correct this? And it seems to me that they just legalized what should be illegal activity of government suppressing free speech, because they basically let the government know as long as you got enough different people making the phone calls, no one will ever have standing to sue. Like I said, were you ever you getting this kind of legal and political analysis from anyone else? I think not. All right, this is from The Hill. For months, high-ranking government officials placed unrelenting pressure on Facebook to suppress America's free speech, Alito wrote. Because the court unjustifiably refuses to address this serious threat to the First Amendment, I respectfully dissent. Look, I'm agreeing with this guy on this one. As Barrett read her opinion, Alito mainly looked down at a set of papers in front of him with his head sometimes leaning on his hand. He did not read his dissent aloud from the bench. Like Alito, Thomas also looked down from the greater portion of the opinion reading and leaned his head on his hand at times. About halfway through Barrett's reading, Thomas could be seen putting back on his glasses, reading papers, blah, blah, blah. Gorsuch was absent from the bench Wednesday, and that's enough of that one. All right, the other big one was presidential immunity. And in this case, I kind of get where the Supreme Court is coming from. And we did an episode of Part of the Problem where we mentioned this at the end of the episode. And I think Dave kind of made the argument of why presidential immunity might be important very well. I disagree. We're going to get into some of the specifics here. But I think the reason why I disagree is somewhat outside of the scope of the way the Supreme Court operates. So I'm just going to, for the sake of clarity, here's my problem with the Supreme Court. What illegal behavior do we want to empower a president to do? Why is it important for a president to be able to engage in illegal behavior? If you're going to give him immunity, and the idea is, you're essentially saying the president might need to do something that's illegal, and we need the president to be able to do something illegal. So my question is, what is the illegal activity that you need a president to be able to do? And then the secondary question is, isn't there a problem of allowing a president to engage in illegal activity because they might overstep? And the extreme example being given by the dissenters of the Supreme Court is what's to keep a president from taking the SEAL Team 6 and going to kill the person that's running against him and going, well, he was a danger to democracy. Biden could do it right now. Hey, Donald Trump doesn't respect the rule of democracy. My court cases against him fell apart. And I know that if he gets in here, he's going to further make the Supreme Court even more extreme. This can't be up to the voters, and I have to kill the guy. And you might go, well, you can't kill the guy. But I guess according to the Supreme Court, you could say that that's the outer perimeter of the guy's official duty. And so it's allowed. I did just say duty. I'll admit to that. And I didn't even say it like with it was more with like two D's than with the T. I'll admit to that. Bad choice of words with an immature audience like this. Anyways, it would seem to me, why would we need a framework where a president needs to be allowed to engage in illegal activity? Why is that the best framework? So I'll pitch to you a better framework, and I'll tell you why the Supreme Court didn't go with this. I would think the same way that you go to a judge and you get a warrant, there should be a secondary court. It can be established in a way similar to the Supreme Court. I think we can game theory how to put together this court to make sure that it's fair. And obviously no system's perfect, but that's why you have checks and balance, accountability. That's what kind of keeps people in check, is the fact that they might be held accountable for their actions. I think what you do is you get a secondary court, and anytime a president needs to act swiftly and he's not sure if what he's doing is legal or illegal, he goes to the court for a judgment. And if the court says that it's legal, he can do it. If the court says it's illegal, that he can't. And that's the way you get around this. Their big claim is that a president needs to be able to act swiftly and boldly. And if he can't act swiftly and boldly because he thinks that he might get in trouble later, well, what are the specific examples of that? What can't be thought about? Or what do you think that a president needs to be able to do quickly, swiftly, and boldly, that if it's so important, he shouldn't be comfortable with being held personally accountable? That's the way it works for most of us in our jobs. If you feel strongly enough about something, and sometimes you got to put it on the line if it doesn't work out. And if you're the president in the United States government, we got all the resources in the world to be determining whether or not things are legal or illegal in a quick case. So what is it? You want to figure out whether or not you can conduct a drone strike? Same as a warrant. You can get a council of people to get together. I got to hit that light again. I apologize. It's life on the road. And I just hit the knee that hurt. That wasn't smart. High-level political analysis in unprofessional settings. But 404 people are here live. And you know what else? We're making no edits in post. This thing is going out as is, so enjoy the pauses. That'd be a good opportunity to go on a fart walk. That should be the last time that we have to hit the light anyways. All right. Now, the reason why the Supreme Court didn't do that is because that's not really their job. Their job isn't to pitch, hey, we need to restructure our entire government, because it doesn't make sense to legalize a president being allowed to engage in illegal activities. And we don't currently have a mechanism by which, for quick decisions, because things take months to get to the Supreme Court. And so we actually need Congress and Senate to come up with something else, because this is not the game theory or game plan or whatever. This wasn't quite accounted for in a good manner within the Constitution. That's not their job. That's not their role. So I think they're looking at this, and it's what Dave Smith said on the episode. Look at all the crimes the presidents have gotten away with, and then look at what Donald Trump's in trouble for. And so clearly we have a problem of rogue prosecutors or people being able to bring endless lawsuits against the prior president. It's almost like if you wanted to preserve the status quo with what they just did to Donald Trump, unless you want Donald Trump to get into office and go after everyone before him, and then you want him to be able to go the next guy to go after Donald Trump, you probably need presidential immunity. And so I think they were looking at it from that standpoint of, wow, we really just violated the norms here with the nonsense that we went after Trump for. And so we've got no choice but to rule in favor of presidential immunity, because otherwise you're going to end up with endless prosecutions. I think there's a better way to go about this. I don't think we need to empower a president to engage in illegal activities. And there's better mechanisms to correct for that. And there should be some sort of a way to hold people accountable. I don't think we're going to see the extremes of a SEAL team taking out another presidential candidate, but I don't think broadly telling them that presidents are immune from doing anything because they need to be able to make quick decisions. I feel like there's other ways to empower presidents to make quick decisions. So this was actually from the Supreme Court. We can read a little bit of it. Imprisonment is a far greater deterrent and plainly more likely to distort presidential decision-making than the potential payment of civil damages. The hesitation to execute the duties of the office fearlessly and fairly that might result when a president is making decisions under a a poll of potential prosecutions, McDonald's versus United States, doesn't it seem like that would force a president to make better decisions if they were afraid that they could get in trouble if they were doing something that was illegal? That seems to me like that would empower them to make less reckless decisions, but that's not the way the Supreme Court sees it. US 550-575 raises unique risks to the effective functioning of government. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Branch, and to enable the president, this is a separate quote, to carry out his constitutional duties without undue caution. At a minimum, the president must be immune from prosecution for an official act unless the government can show that applying a criminal prohibition to that act would pose no dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch. It just sounds backwards to me that your rule poses no dangers of intrusion of what? What is the illegal activity that we need to empower presidents to be able to conduct? All right. So in reaching towards what is the illegal activity that we think presidents need to be able to conduct, Ron Johnson, who I think he's one of the best Republicans out there. I've seen him make interesting statements condemning the military industrial complex. I thought he did great work on COVID, trying to showcase that there were actual vaccine injuries, which hopefully I can say on this channel. I mean, that's technically accurate. I'm not saying that they were overwhelming. I'm not saying that that was a reason not to get the vax, but they existed. And Ron Johnson certainly tried to look into what was going on with the vaccines that they were mandated. Please, COVID, the overlords of YouTube. I mean, we're like an hour into this and it's amongst the Supreme Court talk. So, hopefully we don't get more strikes. But if we do, we're going to make arrangements. And like I said, I recommend following this channel on other platforms because I don't know that we'll be here forever, on YouTube. But anyways, let's listen to Ron Johnson trying to explain why it's necessary for a president to be able to engage in illegal activity. Let's give it a listen.
Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, it's great to have you back on the show. So we got this news coming in today, sir. We'd like your reaction to New York Judge Juan Merchan delaying former President Trump's sentencing in the New York case to mid-September. Basically, the Trump's team is saying the case should be tossed out after the Supreme Court presidential immunity ruling. Where do you come down on this? The Trump team is saying there was inadmissible evidence. Are all these cases against Trump falling apart?
Well, they never should have been brought in the first case. I'll start there. In terms of the actual legalisms of whether this would be prevented from moving forward because of the Supreme Court decision, I will say the Supreme Court decision to me was obvious. What amazes me is that you had three justices who didn't realize that this is a nonpartisan issue. I mean, take President Biden, for example. Were he not president, were he just an ordinary citizen helping people cross the border, giving them sanctuary, and then those same people committing rapes and murders, he potentially could be prosecuted as aiding and abetting those crimes. And so it's an obvious decision that a president, when acting under his official capacity, has to be immune from.
Why would you want Joe Biden to be immune from prosecution for potentially bringing people across the border? What if you could actually run an investigation and prove that he had a policy to try and get as many people over the border as possible so that he could actually ensure that Democrats continue to win elections? And he used government funds and spent them with non-governmental organizations to actually make it easier for people to come over the border. Or what if he actually empowered more fentanyl to come across the border? I'm not making that claim. I'm just saying, what if he did? Or what if he allowed for more Chinese nationals to come over the border? Or what if he so purposely was reckless about the border because he was trying to bring people across? He wanted more South Americans to come across the border, and we ended up with terrorist incidents. Why aren't these all things that you should be prosecuted for? Now, I understand what you all are thinking. Well, no one ever gets prosecuted for this stuff. So shouldn't we take away the ability to prosecute because otherwise it's just the outsider like Donald Trump that will get hammered for it? But why do you have to legalize this? I don't know. It seems much worse than even his example of, well, Joe Biden shouldn't be held accountable for this. If you're a Republican, shouldn't you be specifically holding for Joe Biden to be accountable for this? Maybe it would be the better change that Donald Trump got in trouble for all this bullshit. And so he actually starts going after these people for real things, like whether or not they had a malicious, they were either completely negligent with the border or they had a specific directed to myocarditis to try and get as many people over the border as possible. And they specifically used government funds to empower people to cross the border. Why do you want to legalize it? I mean, theoretically, go back in time. Should Reagan have been in trouble for working with the CIA for bringing Krakens so that they'd have more money for CIA operations? I think it was under Reagan. You want to legalize that? I mean, I understand. So in this case, we've got a faulty system where the only person getting in trouble is Donald Trump for things that we all think are loony and he shouldn't be in trouble for. But you actually want to legalize people's ability to either, I guess, be negligent at the job or more flagrantly, maliciously undermining our country's security and bringing people across the border. That should actually be legal. All right, Jack Burden coming in with might be a good point. That is what impeachment is for. And so you should impeach first, and then I guess there can be either repercussions, or the repercussions are that you're then impeached, and then I guess that's the end of it, which fair enough. And someone emailed me the argument, robsnewsroom@gmail.com, because I was in my own head thinking about how does impeachment fit into all this, and I didn't see much talk of it. All right, let's continue. But I'm open to what you're saying, that there's a secondary process of impeachment that is supposed to deal with what I am describing. All right, so this was, as I continue to pose, what is the illegal activity that presidents should be empowered to be able to commit? This was from the Wall Street Journal, and I thought that this was interesting. Virtually every president is criticized for insufficiently enforcing some aspect of federal law, such as drug, gun, immigration, or environmental laws, Roberts wrote. An enterprising prosecutor in a new administration may assert that a previous president violated the law, he said. Without immunity, such types of prosecution of ex-presidents could quickly become routine. Now, I want to say that there's a very big difference between not doing something versus doing, like, in other words, if you actively call up the SEAL team or you actively call up NGOs and go, hey, I'm going to send you money to bring people over the border, that's taking action. That's different than just fucking up. So if you want to say, hey, listen, a president should be off the hook for anything that they fucked up because they weren't able to actually execute on, or you want to even say, hey, they were negligent and that they weren't good enough at executing a role, that they shouldn't be prosecuted for not getting something done, that's fine. But that doesn't empower them to then actually go ahead and take action towards an illegal activity. Do you guys see the distinction between the two? If you're saying that the issue is presidents should not be prosecuted because every single president has neglected to do something, then say, fine, if a president neglects to take action on something, they can't be prosecuted for that. But that's still different than giving them immunity for actually doing something that was illegal. Or just or then you can, I guess, change the law to presidents are not responsible for not fulfilling a responsibility of office, but they're not immune from taking illegal actions. I don't know. There's a pretty clear-cut distinction there to me. All right, we only got a couple more. Roberts said that without such expansive immunity for future prosecutions, presidents might hesitate from bold action to further the nation's interests. I think we already read that, and that's why I was saying I understand why the Supreme Court wouldn't go back, say, hey, we got to go back to the drawing board and reconstitute the way our government should work, that, there should be a judge that can give quick decisions. But I do think that if you and I were not on the Supreme Court and we want to envision what could make for a better government, I think what I'm advocating for would make more sense. All right, now we're getting a little bit more technical, and then I think we're about to call it an episode. But they then say that the immunity only exists for like actions you did while president. So if it was something from before you were president, you shouldn't be off the hook for that. And I want to say I take the other side on that. I call it the whoopsie thing. If we appoint a president and it turns out that maybe they're not that nice of a guy, maybe you go, yeah, but the guy's president now, and we need to have the president. So guess what? We're not prosecuting him for that thing. And then that still is different than going, hey, we'll empower you to do future crimes or work against the nation's interests because you need to be able to make quick decisions so you can engage in illegal behavior. I almost think there could be some immunity for prior illegal behavior, because it's like, well, you got the job of president now. Now you might say that what they did is so horrible that we don't want the guy to be in office because we don't want a criminal or murderer or rapist or, whatever the crime was, massive financial fraud that led to, thousands of people being broke. None of us want that person representing the country. But then, like that other guy was saying with impeachment, it seems like maybe there would be another way to undo it. All right. Jack Burton, SCOTUS just codified what has been the unwritten rule which has existed since the start of our country. This should never have gone to them, but Trump caused the SCOTUS to rule. I understand what you're saying. I'm going to run for president so I can drunk drive again. That would be a great way to use the immunity. That's fun. All right, I think I got 2 more on this, and then I think we'll call it an episode. The indictments paint a stark portrait of president desperate to stay in power. In the weeks, all right, yeah, I don't even have to read this. I just thought Sotomayor, I thought it was interesting that she was the, I think, only dissenting opinion, and I always think she's the dumbest. And then in this case, even though I agreed with her conclusion, she was the dumbest because she was basically saying what Donald Trump did was January 6th is so horrible. How can we possibly not be prosecuting presidents when this is the example of the horror? No, that's not the example of the horrible thing. It's the example for why we need to not be prosecuting people. All right, Chevron deference. We'll get into that in another episode. I think that's another episode. I think that's enough episode for one episode. Guys, out on the road. I apologize. I think this is a good episode, even if the sound quality wasn't as great as it normally is. That's life on the road. I will be back on Saturday. We're not going to do that episode live, so I'll have Chris quality. I brought my mics. I brought the Zoom. I got the episode with Guy Swan. That's going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina. Come on out. Full stand-up show, me and Menu and Hart, followed by the live podcast with Guy Swan, and then Virginia Beach and Richmond before that. Need some more people show up for the Richmond show. Show up for the Richmond show. It's going to be a good time. Virginia Beach going to be a good time. Menuhin's been doing, he's killing it, man. He's got like this sound machine, and it's different than anything I've ever seen. He's building like a whole sound packages, songs. It's wild. It's like the Black Clapton live in action. Kind of like what you guys heard in the intro, but like along with well-crafted stand-up jokes, it's incredible. So coming out, we're having a good time at the porch, porchtour.com. You can find all the links there. YoKratom.com, loyal sponsor, home of the $60 kilo, and of course, sheet.com. Promo code RYM, get 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. That is the end of this episode. I'm going to go drink and enjoy the porch. Have a good one, everybody.